Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. We are going to do a gentle summer warm-up. I did a video on a stability ball, movements of the spine, and we're going to do the same kind of thing, but here on our mats, movements of the spine. So when it's hot, we don't really feel like getting a good sweat on sometimes, right? Like the humidity, you're barely moving and you're completely out of breath. It's uncomfortable, but we know it's good for us to get going. So especially first thing in the morning, according to yoga, we should wake up early when it's still cool and not too sunny and get some movement in. If that works for you, fantastic. If that doesn't work for you, this can be done at any time of day. I'm here in the bedroom today with the idea that I just rolled out of bed and onto my yoga mat. I have gotten into the habit of keeping my yoga mat here on the floor. I did not just roll out of bed. I've been up for hours, I had my coffee, I got ready to film this, but the theory still fits. It is a great way to get moving even when our brains aren't fully turned on for the day. So here we go. Let's start lying on our backs. We'll go through various movements of the spine: rotation, flexion, extension, lateral flexion, and of course a neutral spine. So let's start in neutral. And sometimes this pose is called neutral posture or constructive rest, where we simply lie on our backs with the knees bent and the feet flat. This is the most comfortable position for the most people, but of course, if it's not comfortable for you, adjust it in any way, shape, or form to suit your needs. We can tuck the shoulder blades underneath the back, lengthening out the back of the neck. If you feel like your head is falling backwards or really uncomfortable, we can roll up the top of the yoga mat like a low pillow, or you might even like to use a low pillow, folded towel, whatever that is. Very common to want a little padding underneath the head. So if that is you, go for it. Don't hesitate. The easiest thing to do is use something that you already have, right? So you can roll up the back of your mat, or even just place the hands behind the head if your shoulders are okay with that. We'll take a moment here focusing on our breath. So I was doing a little research about what yoga techniques have been scientifically proven to cool the body down, and I'm sure you won't be too surprised by the results. Stillness and gentle breath awareness. So something like a body scan and a 3-part breath. So let's begin with that here. Bringing our awareness to the stillness of our bodies. Noticing our feet on the earth. The feeling of drawing in oxygen and then releasing. Maybe noticing the temperature of the air on your skin or the feeling of your clothing. And let's listen to the messages coming up from the body. Maybe you're noticing that something's feeling a little cranky, stiff, sore, whatever that may be. No need to judge it, just observe. And mentally note how those feelings are, maybe going to impact your practice today, or how you need to modify, or what you'd like to do as we go into our movement. So that communication with your body, of course, is going to look a little different for everyone. And then let's draw our awareness back to our breath, focusing on taking a deeper, fuller inhale. And let's see how soft and passive we can be on the exhale. in yogic and Ayurvedic philosophy, the summer season is the Pitta season, governed by the elements of fire and water. The fire part is probably pretty obvious. It is hot out. If you live somewhere humid, the water part may be pretty obvious too. But I think at this time of year, our yoga practices should have a healthy balance of fire and water. So we'll do a little bit of heat building in our movement and embody fluidity. So let's embody the powers of water as we go through our movements. We can imagine that our breath is coming and going like waves lapping at the beach. And we'll do a focus on our pelvis. And this is our sacral chakra and our lower belly. And this is the element of water, our ability to flow, and one of the most mobile parts of our bodies, right? So we're going to tap into that flowing water element in our pelvis. If you like, we can actually take our hands to the pelvis in a way that makes sense for you. So some people like to take their fingers, I don't know, kind of like to a diamond shape, thumbs at the belly button. So the fingers spread out over the low belly and the pelvis. Then we can feel movements of the pelvis, we can feel breath. Some of us might like hands on hips, or almost like what they used to say for reverse crunches is to make that diamond under your sacrum, except out wider. So we're not having an influence on the movement of our bodies or our alignments. We just have that kind of diamond, I don't know, framing our love handles, let's put it that way, between our love handles and kind of the side of your bum. All right, let's get moving through our pelvis. So we're going to start by tucking the tailbone under, creating a gentle imprint between our low back and the mat. And then we'll move in the opposite direction, creating a little bubble underneath our low back, and we might be able to reach underneath and feel that bubble. So this is our sort of cat and cow, supine, paying attention to the pelvis. And the rest of our body just comes along for the ride. So yes, you may notice that the legs are kind of adjusting their angle, or the body is sliding. Yeah, that's okay. The movement originates from our deep core muscles around our pelvis. And the rest of the body is going to come with it. It's going to have an effect on it, but that's okay. So if you like a huge range of motion, that's fantastic. I tend to prefer, because I'm such a naturally mobile person, for better or for worse, I prefer a more controlled, smaller movement. So I like a little bit more fire in this flow, and you may just like a completely flowy, gigantic movement. That's okay too. So if you ever feel like it's too much, we can dial it back, control from the core. And if you feel like you're not really getting anything out of it, maybe try a larger range of motion. And it is a very subtle movement. Let's do the same kind of thing with our pelvis, but we're going to wag our tail side to side. So this is lateral flexion of our lumbar spine. We're shortening down one side of the waist and then shortening down the other side of the waist. Moving the pelvis, we might want to again take our hands to our love handle area or the front of the pelvis, whatever makes sense for you. And even though it is a subtle movement, it's actually a really healthy sort of recovery day movement or cross training. If you've been out enjoying the season on your bike, doing any kind of hiking, or any other movement that has rigidity through the pelvis, I don't know, maybe horseback riding, golfing, same idea. You might want to get, golf obviously has lots of movement through rotation of the pelvis, but you might still feel a little bit locked. So some of these movements can be helpful. Always, I think my cyclists can really benefit from this in my yoga classes. We're going to put those movements together. So we're going to draw a circle with the pelvis now. Again, if you like a huge range of motion, go for it. If you like a bit more heat in the core, control from those abdominal muscles. That old belly button to spine that they used to say do you remember these 20-minute ab classes? We'd just be doing crunches for 20 minutes. That same kind of activation, drawing the abdominal muscles in. And then you may notice that it's tough to take a belly breath. Belly breathing gets a lot of attention, but it's actually not the greatest style of breathing that's ever been invented. Rib breathing is really beneficial too. So if we can figure out how to coordinate the pelvis and the rib cage, we could always take our hands to our ribs to make sure that we're expanding the rib cage with our breath. And if we want to add one more layer to this, noticing what direction we're going with the pelvis. And it's always tougher going the opposite direction. So when you figure out which way you're going, go the other way. Drawing up through our deep core muscles, embracing this balance of water and fire in our core. We'll give it a few more, trying just to keep the tension concentrated in our core so that our jaw is relaxed, our shoulders are relaxed. All right, we'll release. Might take a moment to turn the head side to side. Nod the head up and down. All right, let's get some side-to-side movement, but larger movements. We kind of warmed up side to side. We're going to incorporate the rib cage now. So we're not going to do a 20-minute ab class. We're simply going to reach towards one heel and then towards the other heel. We don't have to touch, but we're getting the lateral flexion through the spine, or in other words, a side bend. Your head can still be on the mat, reaching down. Or again, we can add that fire and core control, coming up just enough so you're not really dragging your body across the floor, but still a pretty neutral straight spine. We'll go once more each way. You could be going fast or slow. You might finish before me or after me. But then as we come back, again, let's release. Movements of our cervical spine. Nodding yes. Turning our heads no. What do we still have? Rotation. So let's go ahead and roll to one side. I'll roll to face you. And propping yourself up however it makes sense. We will be on the side, and then we're going to do a little rotation opening behind us. So you might like to have your arm as a pillow, or some of us might feel like they want the arm to weigh us down so that we don't completely fall backwards. That is up to you. And often this one is done opening like this. So we take palm to palm, keeping the head in a comfortable position, whatever that may be for you. If you have a yoga block, you might want it to be under here. Maybe we're building our neck muscles and we are keeping the head lifted. Let's go ahead and open into our rotation and then come back. Again, it does not have to be a gigantic movement. Might feel good big or it might feel good small. If the shoulder's a little cranky, we could take fingertips to shoulder instead. And let's be aware of what is actually moving. Are you simply just flinging the arm around? Or is our rib cage actually rotating and twisting? Elbow bent or straight. And this next one, let's let it bring us into a deeper twist. We can keep our arms at T, and as well as we can, resting on our backs. So if you're like me, it's a lot of rotation, so the knees lift up, that's okay. If this feels like a good stretch, perfect. If not, feel free to readjust. We'll make our way to the other side. So if you know what you're doing, feel free to flip away from me. I'm going to flip so I'm still facing you. And we'll do the same movement. Finding a comfortable or as comfortable as possible position on the side, and then opening into rotation. So like me, you might find that you want a little bit of a different arm position on this side. That's okay. The range of motion in the arm, in the top arm or the bottom arm, might be a little different, so we can accommodate for that. Again, maybe we notice we're just flinging the arm around and we want to focus on actually rotating from the rib cage. And then finding a comfortable pace. So maybe you did just wake up and roll out of bed, you're feeling groggy. Probably a good idea to move more slowly because your body's still starting up. The same way we wouldn't, well, maybe we would, turn the car engine over and then just start driving 2 seconds later. We know we should let the car warm up. So if you did just wake up half an hour ago and you're just getting started and you want to ease into it, slower is generally better. We'll let this last one bring us into a twist. And we kind of have to shimmy our shoulders underneath us. And then we can bring the arms maybe out to T or elbows bent at 90, goalpost or cactus. Twists can sometimes be quite heating. So this rest afterwards can keep us from getting overheated. Okay, we'll come back to center. And you may like to return to this constructive rest position, or maybe you feel ready, we're going into child's pose. Again, an opportunity for neutral in our spines. And child's can be modified to be on the elbows, maybe having our hips over our knees rather than hips over heels. Maybe the forehead can rest on the mat, maybe not, in which case you might want to stack your hands up to give your forehead a place to rest. And that'll give us a couple of options. So we did do movement in our pelvis, a sort of cat and cow in the pelvis, but we didn't really get into our rib cage. So yogi's choice, we can sit in any comfortable position, focusing on lifting the heart and dropping the heart. If you love cat and cow, you can do it from a cat and cow, stretching the heart forward and then releasing. But in an effort to make this a more wrist-free video, I'll demonstrate the seated variation. Again, you might be comfortable on your heels, cross-legged. Some people are more comfortable with their legs out straight. It's all good, doesn't matter. As long as we have a pretty tall spine, we're going to focus on the movement of our rib cage. Very optimistic, confident, and uplifted, raising heart to sky. And then maybe more humble and released. We're going to shorten our abdominal muscles like we're doing a crunch and lengthen out our back so we can tuck the chin. So if we have like some summer watery imagery, maybe picturing a floaty toy in a pool or a lake, and the floaty toy bobs to the top of a wave and then rides the wave down. We can rest our hands wherever it's comfortable, maybe hand on heart to be aware. But after a good night's sleep, curled up in a cozy little ball, it's good for our spines to lengthen out our abs and lift up. I'll give us one more variation. We can inhale, sweep arms to sky, lifting the chest, creating a back bend, and then exhaling, hands to heart center. We can tuck our chins, looking towards our thumbs. Let's go through just a couple more times. We'll bring our spines back into neutral. Might feel good to roll the shoulders out or any other kind of movement. And we are done. We are ready with our movements of our spine, hopefully feeling a little bit more loosened up and ready to start your day. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.